So I'm a nerd geek like everyone else. You know, I love pop culture, I love music, movies, I love comic books, I love comic book movies, I love horror, sci-fi. This is a special two-part video. I'm going to be showing you my comic book collection. It's a very small collection, but I figured why not show off what I have so far. This is going to be a two-part video, and the first part is going to be Marvel Comics. Part 2 is going to be DC Comics. So, let's get to it. Oh, and before I show you, I have a box full of them, and it's right in here. It's pretty hefty and heavy. So, let's get to my Marvel comic book collection. So first off, right here, I have the Marvel Comics Presents Wolverine. I love the character of Wolverine, the X-Men. This is from Volume 1, Number 4, early October 1988. I mean, I think I've read these comics over so many times, and it's crazy and it's fun. But you can tell the aesthetic look to it, that it's absolutely fantastic. It has that 80s feel, and I absolutely love it. Next, I have Die Deathlock. Some of you might be like, what are these comic books that I have? Well, these are ones that have been given to me by family members, or ones that I've found at comic book stores that I was interested in, and you know, I had a liking for it. And this was released, let me see if I can find it. Let me see. Doesn't really say. Oh, here it is. Volume 1, Number 8, Deathlock, February 1992. So it has that 90s feel to it as well. And the thing I like about it, and sometimes, is that the cover art is really interesting and fantastic and fun to have. But then you get that 90s, like, back cover text or commercial or, you know, print. Even though the Nightshade video games you get, you know, like, come on, who remembers Nightshade? I mean, it's such a classic. Die Deathlock. If you haven't read this, it's interesting, it's fun, and you'll be blown away by what this comic book is. The next one is Power Pack. How can you not love Power Pack? Classic, in-your-face, fun. And it says this issue, the New Mutants guest star. So this was actually released in October of 1988. It's Volume 1, Number 40. And it's, I mean, look, listen. Look at the color and design of it. It's so good, so fantastic and fun. I mean, I have to actually reread this because I actually forgot what the story was. But it's really, really good to see. And then they're saying that they're making a Power Pack movie. I mean, they did make the New Mutants, or the Mutants movie. That wasn't too good at all. Next up, I have Flashback, The Uncanny X-Men, The Birth of the Sentinels, The Tragic Family Tragedy. I mean, come on, look at that. Look. I love comic books for their design because they're so flamboyant, but they're so colorful, and it's absolutely fantastic. This was released in July of 1997. It's Volume 1, Number 1. So, you know, sometimes I forget what volumes and numbers I have, if they're the first editions, second editions, or the reissues. But, you know, it's, I mean, come on, look, you get Stan Lee in a cameo. But look at that. Look, do you see that? Come on, so perfect, so fun, so good. I mean, I'm going to reread these after I'm done doing these videos, but, you know, it's so good. I mean, the Sentinels, you get Stan Lee. I mean, come on. Stan Lee doing a cameo in his own comic book. Not bad, right? Not bad at all. Next up, Flashback, The X-Men. It's so-called another, I want to say, part to the one I just showed you, and this is Volume 1, Number 1, July 1997 as well. Magneto, Professor X. I mean, come on, look at that. Look at that. Look at that phenomenal. Look, I mean, it's amazing. You could say that these two are kind of one in the same story in a way, but with a little difference. You could say the first one I showed you is Part 1. This is Part 2, even though it says it's Volume 1, Number 1. But I feel like the story continues in a way. And it's just fantastic. I love this Magneto shot. Oh, it's so good. It's amazing and phenomenal. I really do have a place for the X-Men because they're such a phenomenal group of comic book characters that it's amazing. Right here I have collector's item first issue, October 1998, Mutant X. The Mutant X comic. If you don't know what Mutant X is, do your research. I mean, this is a trifold cover. It comes open like this, and you have, behind the fold, you have Havoc, Madeline Summers, Bloodstorm, The Brute, Iceman, and The Fallen. So you can see that right there. They have that, and it's actually fun and amazing. And I am, like I said, this was the first issue, right? The collector's item first issue. And it starts off, differently. And it's from November in 1998, or as it says, October 1998. Listen, this is an action-packed comic that you do want to read if you find it. I mean, Havoc in himself is a great, great character. He gets more love in the comic books than he would in the movies. It's just so interesting how it's done. I mean, I love it. I love it. I love these, and it's so, so good. Next up, I have Wolverine. Yeah, look at that. Look at that shine and sheen on it. I mean, I think it's Wolverine Doombringer. I forgot how to pronounce that. I'm not sure. But this is, I want to say, doesn't really tell me what issue or volume it is. But I feel like this is the comic book they used for the movie The Wolverine when he went to Japan in the Hugh Jackman movie. This is great. It's a direct edition, and it is because, I mean, you look there, you have it. You have the Silver Samurai, and of course we know how the Wolverine movie turned out. It was supposed to be a good movie, but then it wasn't. I just love the aspect and the color of this, and it's just eye-catching, eye-popping. That's why I got it, and I actually didn't know the whole story about the Silver Samurai or Wolverine or the Japanese story behind it. But when I read this, I was interested, and I always wondered if they were going to do a movie, and they kind of did, but it wasn't that successful. Next up, the Uncanny X-Men. Look, I have a lot of flair comic books, meaning I love like designs that are just up close and in your face. It's so much fun. And this is the Volume 1, number 304 issue of September 1993. And the reason you know it's September 1993 is because they have an advertisement for The Nightmare Before Christmas, which comes out in theaters that year. This was a good comic book. It was great. It was in your face. A lot of tragedy happened in this one, and a lot of, I want to say, backstory to certain characters were really good, and it was different and interesting. But this was so-called the celebration of 30 years of X-Men. So they released this. And if you look at the hologram or the graphic, you can see, and if I'm doing it correctly, you can see what's in there. It's really fun. It's really great. I mean, everyone returns that were part of the X-Men, and the ending is absolutely something that you want to read, and it's really, really fun because you never expect what happens to Professor X. Like, this is one you want to check out. Up next, I have probably my top favorite Marvel character, Cable. Yes, I have a Cable comic book. I mean, who doesn't? If you don't, then what are you doing? What are you missing out on? This is the first issue collector's item, and it's a Future Destiny issue, and it's Volume 1, number 1, from May of 1993. I absolutely love this comic book because we didn't get that much of a backstory of who Cable is, who Cable was. But then Cable appeared in Deadpool 2, which I absolutely loved. I love the whole aspect of the X-Men and how they introduced different characters and everything. But this was really fun. This was really different, and it absolutely made sense to give him his own comic book. It says it's revealed secrets behind X-Force's mysterious leader. If you know that story, then you know the entire aspect of Cable and the history of it, and how this is a fun read. It's really, really short. It's not long at all. You could probably sit down and read it in, like, I want to say a half an hour, but it's so good. Next up, I have the X-Men. Basically, it's an anniversary issue, and it just has Magneto fighting Wolverine on the cover. It's amazing, and if you actually open it, like, you can tell that it's a connected cover. Like, look at that. Like, who... comic books don't do this anymore. They do not do this anymore. They need to start doing this. And this was one of the anniversary issues, and it's volume 1, number 25, October of 1993. So it's a continued of the Uncanny X-Men, the one I showed you previous ago, or before Cable. And, you know, like, look, see, it had... I mean, of course you can tell it's kind of the same because it had the holographic image. And, you know, it's very, very different. While I showed you this opening of the cover, the Uncanny one, I forgot to show you, also has the opening of the cover. As you can see, it's so amazing and so well done that it's just mind-blowing how the artists and the artistry goes into these comics. This is sort of like, I want to say, a reissue of that, because this is actually, yes, it actually is. This is, let me see, hold on. No, it's not. See, I thought it would be this one and then this one, but it's not. This is number 304, while this one is volume 1, number 25. So, like I said, I don't have all the ones that I have in order, but it's fun to do. And sometimes these little holograms, or the holographic, whatever they want to call it, the patches, please let me know in the comment section below what they call it. These are fun because sometimes they give away a secret in the comic book that you don't really know what's going to happen. And in the ending, it's great. And always at the end of all these comic books, you can write in or say, hey, get 2, 3 free comic books. Those were fun and absolutely amazing. Now, up next, I have the Uncanny X-Men. I usually don't open my packs that much, and I'm just going to leave it at that. It's the Uncanny X-Men on this side, and I have another one, X-Men, on this side. It's a giant milestone issue. It's October number 360, but out of the 10,000 that were issued, I have 1,337, and it was signed by the comic book artist, I want to say. These issues are great. It's fun. Like I said, I collect a lot of X-Men comic books because I love the story of the X-Men, the whole aspect of what they go through and the different characters they have, and then that branching off into other different things is always fun, and it's just amazing. Like I said, I don't really open my comic books. I opened them once to read it, and then I put them back, and that was it. And this is the 35th anniversary issue, while the other few were 30th anniversary issues. So I do love my, if there's a better way of preserving these, let me know in the comment section below, and I would love to find a way to actually put these in storage, or, put them in more better protective material to, for the long run. So this is my X-Men collection. And then that was my X-Men collection. And now we're going into my very small kind of Spider-Man collection. The Untold Stories of Spider-Man. This is, look at that. I mean, come on. This is the old, current issues of the comic books. It's just fun and in your face, and it's great. This is Spider-Man number 1 volume on July 1997. I mean, and who makes a cameo appearance? But other than Stan Lee himself. I mean, this isn't more so Spider-Man heavy at times. He doesn't appear as much as he should in this, which is why it's not one of my favorites. But I really do enjoy reading this because it was very different than what you usually expect. Like it says, it's a flashback, the untold tales of Spider-Man. Alright, this is probably my favorite because it's the fabulous first issue of Spider-Man Unlimited. Maximum Carnage begins here. I love this comic book because we finally get introduced to Carnage. I want to say the aspect and design of the colors are great. It's just eye-catching and eye-popping. It's really, really fun. And like I said, I have it in a little, a billfold case where I don't open it, with a little protective backing to it. These are one of my favorites because, like I said, the color is great and it's fun. And I just, love collecting comic books. The issue like this was good because, like it says on the bottom here, right here, if you can see it, it says the fabulous first issue. So it's a good issue, and I love it. I wish I had the whole collection of this because I would have loved to have seen how it transpires over a few comic books. Sometimes they do everything in one issue and you have to get more, but this right here was absolutely amazing. Now, this here is very interesting, and I really want to say very interesting because they call this the Spider-Man Maximum Clonage issue. And it's really eye-popping and in your face because look at that design. Look at that design. And if you open it, I'm going to be very careful here, you can see that shine and that sheen into it. It's so good and so fun. The cover is amazing. And evidently it's the beginning of the end, and it's volume 1, number 1 from August of 1995 or 1996. I'm not really sure. The print and the font is interesting. There are a lot of things that are happening in this because, like, listen, you got different Spider-Man, you have Green Goblin, you have all these aspects of who these characters are, what is maximum clonage, and it's just like, it's so fun and interesting, but the colors and the brightness aspect of it are really the stuff to really open. I mean, look, you think you want to read a comic book left to right, but there's a scene where you actually have to read it up and down, left to right. Like, look at that. Look at that prestigious color comic book. Like, this entire issue here is just action. It's just in your face, right to the point, and it's really, really fun, and it's great, and I want to find more of these because I love how they did this. This up next is the giant size 30th anniversary special of Spider-Man. Now, it teases that inside there's a giant new great villain. And, look, as you can see, I love this kind of covering on comic books. It's just eye-opening, and it's just, it's like, oh, it brings you in. It's like, what is this? And you look at it, it's like, okay, I gotta see this, and I gotta take it home and read it. This is the volume 1, number 26 issue from September of 1992. The fun thing about this is that there is a fantastic poster in the middle of this issue that I have not taken out, and I'm not going to take out. As you can see, it has a Silver Surfer, Spider-Man, and Captain America. Now, how do they play a role into it? Well, you have to read the comic book to find out. It's really interesting how everything transpires and how everything comes together. You could say that the villain in this is really lackluster, I want to say, but it's none of that. It's nothing at all like that, and it's really, really fun. Check this one out because this was fun to read, and hey, sometimes when you do get a poster, you just want to take it out right away, but I haven't. I'm leaving it in there because it's just so well done and so colorful. It's perfect. It's amazing. So that is Spider-Man the 30th anniversary special edition. Next up, I have the Inhumans. Yes, I absolutely love the Inhumans. Of course, there are some injustices about how they're perceived when they had the television show, and then Black Bolt appears in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We know what happens, and it's great. This, of course, I'm not going to open it, as you can see, because it has a protective case over it, and it's fun. It's great. I love the Inhumans, the Marvel issue, and it's really hard to open. I'll open the Inhumans one for you just to get a glimpse of what you guys want to see. Like I said, look at that. It's so, I'm like, oh, like I'm opening it right now, and like the sticky part is just so stuck on there. That is, there we go. All right, so let's take this out. All right, look at that. Look at that right there. It's fun. It's a great. It's volume 2, number 1, 1998. And of course, the Inhumans, as you know, are Black Bolt, Medusa, Karnak, Triton, Gorgon, Crystal, and Lockjaw. These are very different Inhumans than what you know and what they, what we are known for perceiving of. but it's really fun and really great, and it's just interesting how this was kind of used for the aspiration for the Inhumans TV show, but it wasn't. And always the difficult part is trying to get these back in without getting them stuck. So, there we go, and let's close that up. There we go. Look at that. I figured open the Inhumans because, you know, I like the Inhumans, but I'm not a big fan of it. But that is the Inhumans. Up next, we have Heroes Reborn, The Return, Part 1 of 4. The countdown begins as worlds collide. This is a rare one because it's the only issue I have of it, and it's Part 1. I don't have the other 3 issues, which is 2, 3, and 4. And I like this one, but I wasn't, you know, drawn to it. This was given to me by someone, and I actually know, was it given to me by someone? I think I bought it at a comic book store. I just loved the look and design of it because in the background, as you can see, there's a villain, and, you know, it's really well done and so good. It says it's number 1, but, you know, is it really number 1? You know how these are. And it's fun. It's great. Next up, we have Moon Knight. I'm going to give you a little story about Moon Knight, because Moon Knight is my favorite comic book Marvel character, other than the Hulk and Spider-Man and the X-Men. I love this. I was very happy to see that they did a television show, and Oscar Isaac did a phenomenal job as Moon Knight. And it's really interesting because in this, it opens up and it gives you a history of who the characters are in this, and it's just really fun. You have Morpheus, you have Black Spectre, you have Bushman, you have Duchamp, you have Marlene. I mean, it's great. And the interesting thing about this is that it's Volume 3, Number 1 of Volume 3, Number 1 of January 1998. It's number 1 of 4. I don't have the other 3, and I wish I did, because I would love to see how this story ends. Moon Knight in general is just badass and fun, and if you haven't seen the show or read the comic books, do it, because you'll absolutely love it. And this version, this comic book, really gives you an aspect of what you're going to be interested in. And this comic book is like fragile, because you can feel the pages, like, just like, you know, you have to be careful when you turn certain pages, but these are fun, and I absolutely love it. And I definitely do have to find number 2, 3, and 4 of these. Now, this is Marvel Justice. I'm not really sure what this one is. I did read it once, but it is the first issue, I want to say. Let me see. Let me double check. It's Volume 1, Number 1, November of 1986. So it has that 80s look and style to it, which is great, which is what I love. And I think this came with another comic book. I might be mistaken. But, I mean, look at the price of it. It was 75 cents back in 1986. And with inflation, I mean, who knows how much this one is. This is different and interesting. Like I said, I don't really know much about what this issue was, but I definitely have to read it again. I mean, it does bring you in with the cover art to see what it is and what's happening, but it's really fun. Next up is Captain America introducing Team America. Look at that. Look at that cover. It's an amazing cover. And, you know, it's from 1982. It's Volume 1, Number 269. I absolutely love this issue of Captain America because we are introduced to Captain America and Team America, but we don't really know Team America that well because he's not in any of the movies, I mean, or more comic books for that matter. But it's done real well, and if you know who that guy is right there, then you know your history. This is great. It's fun. I would love to see Team America in a Captain America movie. Hopefully that happens. And, you know, I mean, the color is not eye-catching or eye-popping because back in the day, everything changed from the 80s to the 90s with comic. You can see the color has faded a little bit, but it's still there. But it's done so well. Next up, we have the Incredible Hulk, or Flashback The Incredible Hulk. Of course, as you know, this is part of the Flashback comics, which I have and which I've showed you of different ones before. But this one is really fun because it's The Incredible Hulk. I love The Incredible Hulk. This is Volume 1, Number 1, from July of 1997. I really, really wish I had more issues of certain comic books because I love the aspect of reading more and more of it. And with my collection that I have, I want to start reading and collecting more because it's just fun to do, and I love comic books. And the aspect of this is that, of course, as you see, Stan Lee as a character who cameos in this is fun, and it's just really good. If you haven't read this one, please read it because it's really, really interesting. I mean, it has different ways of what you'll expect in the issue, and it's great. It gives you a little story and lead. Of course, as you say, it says you turn the page, and it starts off in a crazy way where we see Hulk at the beginning near a tombstone. So a lot of crazy things happen in this one, so be sure you get it and check it out. This one is interesting because it's very, very different. This is Power Man and Iron Fist and Daredevil. Yeah, I didn't know I had this until I looked through my collection. And this is from Volume 1, Number 77 from January of 1982. I mean, come on. Power Man, Iron Fist, and Daredevil. What more do you want? I mean, get these three in a show together or do something where these characters, overlap or something, but it's just fun. Daredevil is a fun comic book. I mean, when you see Daredevil in a comic book, you're like, oh my god, what is it? I want more. This is what that is. We get a lot of Daredevil in this, along with Power Man and Iron Fist, but Power Man is really, really underrated, and, not much of a story is given to him, even with Marvel, but they should, because we need to have more shows or a movie about the underrated characters in Marvel. Next up, I have Daredevil. Yeah, this is probably the only Daredevil comic book that I have, and this is Volume 1, Number 213, December of 1984. A lot of 80s comics I have, and it's great. This was a fun one. This was action-packed. This was in your face. This was a very emotional story with Daredevil, and it was good to see, but it was very different. And the aspect that leads into it is really, really good. I mean, it's from, December of 1984, and it starts off with different ways of what, Daredevil is and what he's doing, and it's just, it's a fun comic book, and it's really in your face, like I said. Daredevil is heavily featured. Sometimes they feature certain aspects where their characters aren't heavily featured in their comic books, but with this one, Daredevil is featured, and it's really, really great. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, I have a Nick Fury comic book. Can you believe it? Wow. This is Volume 2, Number 6, mid-December 1989. This is not the Nick Fury you know now, which is played by Samuel L. Jackson. This is very, very different. They tried to do a Nick Fury show or movie with David Hasselhoff back in the 90s. Of course, we know that didn't work out. That was trying to start their own version of Marvel and the Avengers Initiative, or the Ensemble, or Assemble, whatever you want to call it. And this was good. This was different. It's not your normal Nick Fury Marvel comic. I mean, more so, while Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury is badass, this one was more brute, was more in your face, and more crazy and fun, and it just made sense. But I wasn't a fan of how this one ended. I feel like they could have done more to it, and it's just, half the comic book is just Nick Fury with his shirt off, screaming and yelling, and that was it. Cloak and Dagger. I love this comic book. I was very disappointed at the TV show that they had, because it was not true to the comic books at all. This is Volume 1, Number 2 from November of 1983. This is number 2 in a 4-issue limited series, so I don't have 1, 3, or 4. I don't have much of a full set of collections, and it's really, really bothersome for me. But it's great. It's fun. Cloak and Dagger is very underrated. They're in your face. They're always a fun read. And, you know, if this is a 4-part issue, I'm definitely going to be searching for this for sure. And it's just one of those comics where I love, and they work well off each other as the characters. But if you watch the show, Cloak and Dagger, it's not really that interesting. Because people didn't know what Cloak and Dagger was when it first came out. There was no, you know, thing saying like, oh, Marvel, this, that, superhero. But people knew what Cloak and Dagger was if you were a fan of it like I am. So, I mean, I'm definitely going to look for the issue of limited series of 1, 3, and 4. This is Wonder Man. Yeah, I have a Wonder Man comic book. I don't know. I forgot. I think it came with something else. It was a set, and I just picked it up, and, you know. And it also guest stars the Avengers of the West Coast. And it's volume 1, number 2 of October of 1991. And it's interesting because they have different aspects of what this is. And, you know, not only that, you have fun little things in this. And, like, you have, like, advertisements for Toy Biz or Toys R Us showing you the X-Men action figures right there. It's great. If you don't know what Wonder Man is, it's really, really fun. Of course, you see Hawkeye, Iron Man, and you see Captain America as plush toys on the bottom here. And it's great. Wonder Man's very underrated. Nobody knows about Wonder Man because when they see Wonder Man, they're like, what is that? Who's Wonder Man? This is Wonder Man right here. I'm curious because I want to get the volume. This is volume 1, but I want to get number 1, so it's going to be interesting to read. Next up, we have Heroes Return, Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four is one of those comic book characters and teams that are very underrated. We know the whole aspect of it because they've been treated differently in how they are portrayed on film to the comics. And I feel like John Krasinski really picked the right role. And, you know, Kevin Feige was like, let's just put him as Mr. Fantastic, give the fans what they want. This is a really, really fun episode because it gives you look, it's a backing and opening. Mr. Fantastic, The Thing, Human Torch, Invisible Woman, and it says previously. So it's a really interesting issue, and the reason I say that is because it's volume 3, number 1, January of 1998. We do get a backstory, and it's full of action of what the Fantastic Four go through. And it says the collector's item first issue, but it doesn't really say it's the first issue because it's number 1, volume 3. So it's the first one in the volume 3, but it's good. It's really, really interesting. And I love the aspect of the cover design. Now, next up, I want to say it's kind of the same as what I just showed you. Actually, it is the same of what I just showed you. It's the Heroes Return Fantastic Four. Volume 3, number 1. So I have 2 of the same comic books, but with different covers. So, I mean, one's more of a orange hue, the other one is a colorful one. And if you actually expand and open this up, you see that cover design of them fighting. I love how they do that all the time because this way it grabs you and brings you in. This one does not have that. This one just has a trifold opening like that, and that's about it. But I would say that this one is a little bit better because it's more colorful and you can actually open it up and see the whole action. This comic is really, really good and really fun, but it's very different than what you usually see in a Fantastic Four comic book. Next up, I have Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. Yeah, this is also one of those open back fronts things. Look at that. I mean, come on. Right, look, I'm hiding my own face behind it. Look at that. Look how amazing that is. Like the color design, the aspect. You have, God, look at these. You have Baron Zemo. You have Red Skull, Silver Surfer, Green Goblin, Namor. I mean, Nick Fury. I mean, this is interesting because it has an trifold opening, as you can see, and it has Captain America then, Captain America now, Agent 13 then, Agent 13 now, Shield then, and Shield now. So it's like, wait, what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of things because this is a volume 1, number 1 of September 1998, and it actually opens up on July 4th, 2001. This was a fun issue. This was a fun read because you have all these aspects of the then and now. I want to say a little bit of time travel, so to speak, but it's fun, it's good. Not many do know about this, but it's really great to read, and I definitely would recommend this if you're a fan of Captain America, because it's just interesting to see how everything plays out in this one comic book. Now, next up, I have Strike Force. Yeah, Strike Force. One of those ones where people are like, what is that, or what the hell is that? Well, this is from Volume 1, Number 1, on January of 1987. The month and year I was born. So it says, we who are about to die, Strike Force, Morituri, can you survive a walk in the garden? Read this once, wasn't a fan of it. I feel like they could have done something different and better for it. But hey, that's what it is, and that's what this is. Next up, I have number 1 in a 2-issue limited series, because this is the first one. I have a Red Sonja comic book. Yeah, very interesting and surprising. I know you're probably wondering. This was an interesting read. It's very different. Of course, as you see, it says Marvel right there. So I guess it's a Marvel property. I could be mistaken. But it's fun. This is Volume 1, Number 1 from November 1985. It's Red Sonja. And of course, you can see Conan the Barbarian, Arnold Schwarzenegger right there. His likeness is there, and it's great. If you've seen the movie, then you know what the comic book is about, and if you see how certain things are done, then you know how the aspect is played into it. So that's my Red Sonja comic book. Yeah, I know. Not many have a Red Sonja comic book. And this one is the Marvel Comics Group King Size Annual All New Conan the Barbarian comic book. Yes, I have a Conan the Barbarian comic book. It's a fun comic book. It's in your face. It's great. I love it. Not more so of the likeness of Conan, of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but this was a Volume 1, Number 7 of 1982. Of course, you can see the likeness is definitely not Arnold Schwarzenegger right here. As you can see, it's very different. I love it. I actually like the Red Sonja comic book more than I do the Conan Barbarian comic book. I feel like we just get that aspect of, we get that glimpse of, Schwarzenegger and the aspect of how everything's played out in this, and it's really fun. So right here I have my interesting, fun, prized possession of a Marvel comic. It's in this little binder right here, as you can see. And when I open it up, it's the Venom comic book featuring the Punisher. It's the first issue, as you can see right there. I have the second issue, part 2 of 3, and part 3 of 3. I absolutely love these. I saw these at a comic book store, and I got these with the sleeve in it. And then I got the binder along with it, just to, give it that nice look and feel to it. I absolutely love Venom Funeral Pry, which features the Punisher. It's also autographed by the comic book author, I believe, and designer. And it's actually marked on all 3 of these. So the set is complete of my Venom Funeral Pry. It's probably the only complete collection that I have, and it's really fun. I absolutely love this. I give it a read every couple months because it's just a great comic book. I mean, when you have 1 of 3 or the 2 or the whole collection of things, it's really mind-blowing, and you just feel good and fun, and it's really amazing for sure. Right here I have the Marvel Milestone edition. This is a somewhat first issue. It's a reprinting of the 1963 original X-Men comic book. Yes, I have that in my possession. It's a reissue, so it's not the first issue, the original. I wish it was, because boy, it would be crazy if I did have that. I love this because it's a reprinting of it, and it actually is signed by Jack Kirby right there. I do have a certificate of authenticity for this. I love this. We were first introduced to the X-Men, who they are, what they are, and, you know, a reprinting of X-Men #1 from 1963 is great. Of course, you can see I have it in its little sleeve jacket, which is great. So, I mean, listen, I'm not going to open this. I haven't opened this at all since I got it. And it's probably going to be one where I cherish, that even if it's a reprint. I know the original is out there. I've read a lot about it, and out of the 2000 reprint issues, I have number 1522. So it's great. It's fun, and you know, hey, it's very, very interesting. These next two comics are part of the Marvel Comics, and the reason I say that is because it does have Marvel Comics on the top right, and that is the #1 of a 3-issue limited series. And I don't have the other two, and I wish I had it. Of course, you can see I'm very frustrated. Is Darkman. Yes, Darkman. You know that movie with Liam Neeson, and which was directed by Sam Raimi. And the reason Sam Raimi made Darkman is because he couldn't get the rights to Batman or Spider-Man, and he wanted to make a superhero movie, so he created his own, which is now Darkman. I love the Darkman comic book. I love the story, the aspect of it. It's great. It's very underrated. You could say it's the Invisible Man meets Hulk. The aspect of how everything is. It's the official comic adaptation of the spectacular new movie. Of course, you can see it's in its comic book sleeve jacket. I'm not going to open it. And I actually found this at a comic book store, and I loved it. And when I did get it, I remember they didn't have the other 2 issues to go along with it, and I was very disappointed. But hopefully I can find something and that they do have it. So, I mean, the reason I put this in with this Marvel video is because up top here it says, I don't know if you can read it, it says Marvel Comics. So it's really interesting. And another one I have also is another Darkman comic book. Look at that cover. I absolutely love how that cover is done. It's like he's ripping through the comic book. It's great. The aspect is fun, and it's just in your face. So good, so fun, and really, really worth it. I love the Darkman comic books. Up next, I have probably one of my favorite comic book characters that is not Marvel or DC or anything other aspect to it. It's Spawn. I love Spawn, the story, the character, everything about it, how he went through his trials and tribulations, how he fights the Violator, what happens in hell. I mean, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it's very different than what you know from the comics. And the Spawn TV show that was happening in the 90s on HBO was mind-blowing. No kid should ever watch that, but I did, but it was different, and I really want to see that out on DVD. So this is my Spawn comic book that I have. It's not Marvel related, but I figured just throw it in there. I love the design and the aspect of it, and it's just really, really fun. Look, as you can see, it's so much fun. And finally, I have one of 3 issue again. My collections are not complete, as you can see, as I go through these. One of 3, one of 4. I have one of 3 issue of The Crow. Love it. Love The Crow. Love the movie. Love Brandon Lee. And I had to pick this up because I love the aspect of the story. It's emotional. It's in your face. And he just does everything he can to win back the love of his life, even though he's dead and in the afterlife. The context and the graphics and the design of how aesthetic this is absolutely mind-blowing and unfreaking believable. Like, you wouldn't expect anything more or less from this. And it's done so well, and I absolutely love it. So there you have it, my Part 1 comic book collection of Marvel Comics. Let me know in the comment section below which comic book was your favorite, which comic book do you have, which one of these have you read, which one haven't you read. Will you be looking into it now that I showed you my collection? And I know, yes, I know I have to complete my collections of the one of 3 or the one of 4 issues. Let me know in the comment section below about the question I just asked. Thank you for tuning in to part 1 of my comic book collection video of Marvel Comics. And be sure you stay tuned to my part 2 video of my comic book collection featuring DC Comics.